Hello there and welcome to the Weather Studio Live. It's 1 p.m, it's Tuesday and I'm Clare and Aidan.
I'm Aidan McGivern. We're broadcasting live from the Met Office headquarters here in Exeter. We're live on YouTube, on Facebook and of course on Twitter as well.
So welcome Luke. You've seen Luke in the corner there. He's one of our media services team. He's an operational meteorologist. Welcome to the show, Luke, and you'll be giving us some comments and questions.
Yes, so hi everyone. Send us in your questions and comments as we go through the show. Looking forward to answering some of them as we go along.
Thanks very much, Luke. And Aidan, where have you been? Welcome back.
Thank you.
And what's been going on with you?
For a while.
Yes, you have.
It seems like a long time I've been away. 3 weeks tomorrow, my wife and I went into hospital for a scan, and the doctors decided they needed to deliver our second daughter 2 months early. So yeah, I've been spending a lot of time in the hospital with her. She's doing very well. She's been looked after by the incredible nurses and doctors at the Royal Devon and Exeter Hospital. And yeah, doing very well. We're just waiting for her to put on enough weight and then we can bring her home.
Yeah, fantastic.
So,
how's little Molly doing?
Well, Molly's our other daughter. She's 2.5, so she's keeping us busy.
Yes, and you busy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, welcome back. It's really good to see you here.
Thank you.
So, coming up on the Weather Studio Live, well, we've got a lot to talk about today. Obviously, the weather for the week ahead and into the weekend. Some lively conditions coming our way. Could settle down next week. We'll give you a hint of that. Aidan's got some nice charts to show you. Obviously, Luke will be taking your comments and questions. Other things coming up. Well, it's the 40th anniversary of a tragic event that happened in 1979. How old were you in 1979?
I'd have been T-4.
Luke?
T-12.
Yeah, pretty much the same for me as well. It was the anniversary of the Fastnet storm, so we'll be looking at that, the charts from that, and how things have changed since that, particularly with computer models. The latest global climate report is out as well. It came out this morning. We've got a blog on our website, and we'll be sort of detailing some of the highlights from that, or headlines from that. And so, yes, quite a lot coming up. Please send in your comments and questions. However, there's something on the desk, Aidan.
Yeah, look at the size of this bad boy. This is a marrow. Our producer, Adrian, he grows these things in his garden, and apparently it's been great weather for marrows recently. He said he went on holiday, and when he left, this was nothing.
Nothing.
Barely existed. Yeah. And he came back 2 weeks later, and it's this big, and it's not the trick of perspective, it really is enormous.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you've got any recipe ideas or, well, I don't know, other uses for a marrow this big.
Well, Sue Kennedy's saying, why is there a massive courgette on the table? It's probably the same family, I think, isn't it? Marrow, courgette, yes, okay.
I was asking Adrian what's the difference between courgettes and marrows, and to be honest, I can't remember what he said, but yeah, I guess they're related.
Okay, do you want me to take that way now?
Yeah, if you could.
Okay, do you want to start the weather?
Bag.
Okay, thank you.
It's, well, a busy week of weather once again. I think in many respects it's going to feel more like autumn than August, but did you see this picture taken yesterday, sent in to one of our ITV presenter colleagues? Heidi Burns took this off Whitehaven, or near Whitehaven in Cumbria. In the background there you can see the Isle of Man, and this is a proper water spout. You can see, you know, essentially a water spout is a tornado that forms over the water, and you can see the water being churned up there. Just a lovely image, and this wasn't the only water spout spotted in this location yesterday. There were 2, 3, 4, I think, water spouts spotted in the same place. A few photos were sent in, so yeah, just amazing. These form, of course, from the base of thunderstorms, which we saw plenty of, not just yesterday, but over the weekend. There were some torrential showers around. The weather in a very autumnal mood at the moment, and that's all because of the jet stream diving to the south of the UK, so that has a few consequences on the weather across the UK. You can see these coolish colours across the country. This is going through Thursday into Friday and Saturday. It's just a repeating pattern, the jet stream to the south. And one other thing the jet stream, of course, does is it transports areas of low pressure from the Atlantic, and it brings them to our shores. And basically, this is how the weekend's looking, another low pressure over the top of us. Will it be as bad as last weekend? We'll be talking more about that in a moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, the weather essentially in a changeable mood, a cool mood, but today's not looking bad.
Not bad. It was quite wet down here this morning, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. We started off with some persistent rain in Devon this morning, and most of the showers this morning were across western parts of Britain. But you can see by this evening, Quite a few of the showers more towards Scotland, into eastern England, some sharp showers. Odd run of the thunder, you wouldn't rule that out, would you?
A bit of a shock to the system in the north this morning as well, particularly Northern Ireland, some parts of Scotland with quite low temperatures.
Yeah, down to the low single figures, wasn't it? Same again tonight. If I just run that through. So a lot of places seeing plenty of sunshine today. Running that forward overnight, you can see how the clear skies remain tonight, and with that coolish air in place across the country, temperatures will fall away, most notably across eastern parts of the country, because pausing it there, if we turn on the temperatures, those are the kinds of temperatures that we'll be waking up to tomorrow. So we're looking across, say, Scotland, parts of Northern Ireland, northern and eastern England, single figures fairly widely, as low as 2 degrees for some of the sheltered glens of Scotland. But big contrast for the southwest, into the double figures, 14, 15 Celsius.
And probably a slightly milder start for Northern Ireland relative to yesterday morning as well, because of that cloud. But look at this, oh my goodness, I mean, a lot of kids are still off school, I think Scotland goes back sooner, but we've got the whole of August for England and Wales, and we don't really want to be seeing this, do we, on a Wednesday morning?
Alex is on holiday. Yeah. Isn't he? So
hi, Alex Deacon.
Wet and windy there to start off Wednesday. Actually, it's an improving picture for South and West Wales through the morning. The worst of the weather across Wales and the southwest during the morning. Wind and rain. The brighter colours there indicating some heavy rain to start the day. Drier elsewhere. Increasingly cloudy skies coming through across northern and central areas. And then running it through, so this is into later Wednesday morning. By lunchtime, that rainfall's starting to reach London, into East Anglia. But it doesn't tend to move much further north than, say, North Wales. And let's pause it there, because interesting things start to happen by Wednesday evening. So we've got lots of things going on here. First of all, the rainfall, the damp weather is clearing East Anglia in the southeast by this time. Another area of wind and rain pushes into Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. So after a generally dry but cloudy and quite cool day for Scotland and Northern Ireland, we'll see rain move in here for the evening. But look at this. This across, say, eastern parts of Wales into the Midlands, parts of East Anglia, could be quite interesting tomorrow. It depends on cloud breaks, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You can see some cloud breaks starting to emerge across East Wales and the Midlands. And what we've got here this time is quite humid air. So if those cloud breaks allow enough sunshine to come through and lift the temperatures, then
it's going to really...
You could be looking at some fairly lively thunderstorms, mainly across, say, northern parts of the Midlands into northern parts of East Anglia. So it's in this kind of area. And with the potential for those thunderstorms and the humid air packing quite a lot of moisture, yellow warning of force. But it does depend on those cloud breaks, doesn't it?
If the combination is right, the ingredients are right, it's going to be very explosive, isn't it?
Exactly.
Lots of like cumulonimbus clouds out there. Thunder, lightning, torrential rain. Hit and miss though. And
for Wednesday evening rush hour as well through the Midlands, parts of East Anglia.
Oh dear, okay.
Yeah, so that's tomorrow. Right. Just zooming in there on the area concerned. Those showers could set up in a kind of a line there, so you can see, as always, they'll be hit and miss. Even if you're in the warning area, it doesn't guarantee that you'll see a thunderstorm. That's just the area of greatest risk of those storms developing. Scotland and Northern Ireland then just ends up in this kind of showery airflow that we've seen a lot of recently. And by the start of Thursday, a lot of places seeing showers, right? Not quite as cold in the morning on Thursday, I don't think, but nevertheless, quite a few showers. But the showers do tend to ease away from the west because we've got a ridge of high pressure moving in for Thursday afternoon. So
the land is very saturated across many parts of the UK, isn't it? I mean, we've seen quite extensive flooding across parts of Scotland, Yorkshire, Lancashire, Cheshire, and this is not going to help really, is it? There's some quite heavy bursts associated with it, particularly for Western Scotland as that band of rain comes in later and driving rain with those strong winds as well. So it's something we're keeping a keen eye on here at the Met Office. Yeah,
not everywhere needs rainfall, or certainly not much more of it at present. So Thursday at least a breather. It's an improving picture through the day, increasingly sunny skies coming through, drier weather as well. A fair old breeze coming in there, so it's not going to be ideal conditions. If you're on your holidays, it's still going to feel quite coolish, but it's at least going to be a bit drier, a bit calmer before, well, more unsettled weather for the weekend. So yeah, a lot going on. A lot of people on school holidays at the moment, of course.
There are, yeah. Quite a lot of people are actually asking, when is the unsettled weather going to end? Well, it is staying a bit more unsettled as we head towards the weekend, as Aidan will talk about a little bit later on. There are some signs, though, as we go towards the middle part of next week, that we might start to see a ridge of high pressure building in, which means more settled weather. Some people are already asking, what's it looking like for the bank holiday? Well, it's a little too early to say at the moment, but with a ridge of high pressure building in, we might start to see things settling down, at least across more southern areas as we head through the latter part of next week.
Hope so.
Thanks very much, Luke. Back with you in a moment. Right, well, 2018 was a significant year, wasn't it, globally?
Yeah.
Big report out today, Aidan?
Yeah, and interesting findings, although I thought I knew this stuff already, to be honest, because I suppose we were talking about it a lot last year, at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, but I suppose this confirms it, doesn't it, this climate report?
So this is a global climate report where data from individual countries is collated and summarised, and pretty much these are the headlines, aren't they?
So 2018 was the fourth warmest on record.
Yes.
Is that right?
So the warmest was 2016, but that was an El Nino year. 2015 was the second warmest on record, and 2017 was the third. So for the last 4 consecutive years, we've seen the warmest globally. And the records go back quite a long way to the 1800s. So even taking out El Nino, which adds perhaps another half a degree or so around the world. El Nino, obviously the warming of the southeastern Pacific waters, which has knock-on effect elsewhere. It does actually cause issues with drought and high temperatures across southeastern Asia. So we didn't have a significant El Nino last year. Even so, temperatures were really up there.
Was last year the warmest globally without an El Nino?
No, that was 2017.
Right. But,
So
it was one of the warmest,
Yeah.
even without an El Nino. Because remember, we had that 1998 was the hottest year globally for a long time, because it was such a powerful El Nino that year. But then the last 4 years have all beaten 1998. A lot of people talk about 1998 and that we've not seen warming since 1998, but the last 4 years have all been hotter, right? And some of them because of El Nino, but some of them didn't even have that. And they're still hotter.
And still hotter. So it looks like we know where the trend is going. Obviously, we do.
And it's difficult on a week like this, right, where you've got quite autumnal weather in August, to really think about the fact that we're seeing this global warming trend. But of course, we're a small island. We often see this kind of competing influence with winds coming from all sorts of different directions. And only a few weeks ago, we had the hottest day on record for the UK.
And 2018, there were a lot of records broken around the world. There were some cool extreme weather events as well, but numerous hot weather events, which actually sort of reflected this data here.
Yeah.
So yes, very hot indeed. The other highlight was down to changes in the cryosphere. So what's the cryosphere?
Well, that's ice, isn't it?
Ice and snow.
Cryogenically frozen. Yeah. That's an ice thing, isn't it? So the cryosphere...
Cryosphere is really important, particularly to global temperatures, because as the sun beats down, white surfaces reflect that light, so we don't have as much absorption of light, which turns into heat. So it's really important that we maintain the ice and the snow across the globe to keep that balance of temperature, particularly through the summer months. However, there have been some changes to the cryosphere, that's ice and snow, over the last few years. The thickness, which has been taken off the top of the glaciers since 1980, how deep is that thickness? So we've lost a certain amount of depth of ice from our glaciers, and particularly over the mountains.
Just from all the glaciers, so Swiss glaciers and Greenland ice cap, and so everything like that. Ooh, a metre or so?
No, 24 metres. Ooh. So
Wow.
24 metres has been lost since 1980s. That's equivalent of, okay, how tall am I?
1 metre?
How many?
24 of you.
24 of me? 20.
Actually, that
21.
makes me look short now. Standing next to you.
Too many vital statistics coming out in this programme. So that was quite significant. The other significant streak is over the last 30 years, there's been a general global glacier mass decrease. So we're seeing a real sort of decline in our deposits of ice. And ice locks up most of our fresh water, so we're losing that as well. So this is significant. And if you want any more information about this global climate report, it's quite interesting. saying it's quite thick. It was issued by the American Meteorological Society. People here in the Met Office were involved in that as well, led by Robert Dunn. This is the 29th edition, so this is consistently being put out every year. And so year on year, we're really analysing the data, not we, as in, you know, the scientists around the world. And so some significant findings yet again. And there's a really interesting blog on our website written by our very own Graham Madge, who oversees all our climate stuff. So take a look at that as well. Lots of other interesting information there and quite startling information as well, Aidan.
Yeah, I feel Luke is itching to answer some more questions next to me. So
we have some more questions. Yep. So Philip Matthew O'Malley, hello to you. You are asking about whether the system developing in the Atlantic at the moment is likely to be quite vigorous through the weekend, and will it be named? Well, currently there's no plans to name that system as it comes in. It doesn't quite look to be as deep as the one we saw on Saturday just gone. So it is going to still be quite a wet and windy weekend across parts of the country, though, but not currently looking like it will be named. While we're talking about the weekend, Gareth Ross has also asked about what's the weather looking like for weekend events. There is an international air show at Eastbourne, and at Biggin Hill there's a festival of flight. So for Saturday we have got this area of low pressure pushing in. It will bring some pretty strong winds and some heavy rain at times. It looks like Sunday, though, things will improve to some degree. We'll see a mixture of sunshine and showers, so perhaps the better day will be Sunday, but not looking great, I have to be honest, throughout the weekend. You guys got much on for the weekend?
Not me, no. Claire?
I'm going elsewhere. I was in Wales last weekend and we had sort of 40, 50 mile an hour gusts. My dog thought it was very strange. This weekend, I think we'll leave the shores.
The dog's so small, that could pick him up and carry him away.
He was like that, you know, it was one of those in the wind tunnel. So 40 years ago to the week, it was the Fastnet storm. It was a tragic event. It happened during the 13th and 14th of August 1979. The Fastnet race is a biennial race which pretty much tracks from the Isle of Wight round the foot of Cornwall up towards Fastnet Rock. This is called the Western Approaches. It's quite a tricky stretch of water because the waves are coming in from lots of different directions, so you can really get caught out by that alone, even when the weather is okay. And then the race then continues back towards the Bishop's Rock and then finishes in Plymouth. So it started in 1925. How many hours did it take for the winning yacht to race this track back to Plymouth from the Isle of Wight?
Oh, I know nothing about sailing whatsoever. Just random guess. 36 hours.
No. It was 147 hours. But this actually shows how... that's quite... Yeah.
Just someone in the other room laughed. Was my answer that ridiculous?
Today's yachts are far more, sophisticated, and the time they want to beat is around 42 hours. That's not much time in terms of weather forecasting for us nowadays, is it? That's just under 2 days, and the accuracy is pretty good most of the time to anticipate deep lows coming in, rain, wind, and obviously wind and rain and waves picking up. However, 40 years ago, it was a very different story.
Yeah, I mean, you might have heard this before, but something like 30, 40 years ago, our 5-day forecast was as accurate as our 1-day forecast was as accurate as our 5-day forecast is now. So that just gives you an impression of how inaccurate it was 40 years ago.
And so the model products that we were using back in 1979, the atmosphere, that's from ground level to the top of the troposphere, the sort of weather-making machine was split up into 10 levels, whereas today our computer models have so many more, don't they? 70, there you go. Yeah. I didn't know that, Aidan did. And actually that sort of tells us how much more detail we can get. So it was really more down to the forecasters really analysing different aspects of the atmosphere, relying on some observations, but then really trying to link everything together to understand what was going to happen during this spell of weather. So the 11th of August 1979, 303 yachts set sail from the Isle of Wight, and the biggest thing they were concerned with was actually they were in warm sector conditions. So they had a warm front one side, a cold front another. The air was very slack, and they were concerned about fog, poor visibility, particularly where rocks were exposed as they headed round Land's End, and so they were concerned about that. The visibility then improved. Prior to that, they had been briefed, so there was a big weather briefing before the race started. The information coming through from the Met Office suggested, well, yes, the wind could pick up, there could be a low in the vicinity. However, at that time, the low which caused so many problems, actually claimed 15 lives, was across in Nova Scotia. It was a fairly shallow area of low pressure. And the computer models, were suggesting that it would track across, but it's likely to fill as in the central pressure would rise rather than deepen.
Yeah. Fewer isobars,
etc.
Yeah.
So when all the crews were briefed prior to the race, there was a suggestion, yes, we could see a bit more wind, it could pick up a little bit, there could be higher waves. However, there was no indication at that time that things would go so awry. However, the forecasters in the Met Office were concerned. They were concerned that the computer models weren't resolving the deepness of the low enough. They expected this low, they called it low Y, to track across the Atlantic, but as a broad feature rather than a deepening feature. Actually, what happened, the area of low pressure deepened significantly. The winds picked up not only to a force 8, which was one of the forecasts suggested, but up to a force 10, perhaps even 11. Now that's life-threatening conditions, and tracking right across towards the UK. So information was sparse once they were out in open waters. They did have a radio, they had the shipping forecast, which wasn't privy to this information because this information was just coming through as pretty much it was happening. And even the computer models, as they caught up with this storm moving in, was still too late getting it through. It was expected to track through around the 14th into the 15th of August, whereas the storm actually hit during the night of the 13th of August. So no one really knew it was going to happen as deep, as potent, and because of that, only 85 yachts actually completed the race out of 303. People lost their lives. And there was a memorial service just a week ago about that and really sort of saying prayers for all those people who pretty much didn't make it back. Since then, things have changed. Obviously, our models have become a lot more sophisticated. Other things have changed. But prior to that, there was a lack of information, which meant sailors did not know what they were running into. This was the track of the low, Aidan, and actually, as you can see, it extended right the way across from Nova Scotia, from Newfoundland, across the Atlantic, but then it's really here where it starts deepening significantly the upper air.
You can see by the numbers, can't you?
Yeah.
Because you've got 1006 down to 1002, and then suddenly 997, 985, 978. So it's what we call explosive cyclogenesis, where it deepens by 24 or more millibars in 24 hours. So
this was an active feature which was tracking in very quickly, and as you can see here at 6 o'clock on the 13th, it wasn't too far away, but look at that, not that far. 18 hours later, it was almost hitting sort of the western side of Ireland. So yes, this is the 40th anniversary. The charts from that time show a lot of information. Now, retrospectively, we can see what happened. Now there are a lot more stringent rules about the information that people can pick up and take as they're sailing. And obviously, we haven't seen anything like it up to this point. However, in 1979, it was the biggest civilian rescue since the World War II. So
crazy, isn't it? All of the Irish Naval Service were deployed, weren't they, to rescue people from that storm. But
more information on our website. In fact, there's a really interesting documentary on YouTube about that as well, which reenacts. People were just felt so thrilled and honoured to be part of this race, and then obviously how it just untangled so badly to a point where 14 spectators lost their lives as well. 4 spectators, 15 crew members. So it was a real tragic event. In fact, we are going to be looking at that further in the Mostly Weather podcast. Penny Tranter, who's one of our panellists, her uncle was rescued from that race in 1979. So
Wow. Any questions, Luke?
Well, I've had enough of the wet weather now. So George from Facebook has asked, what's the weather like in Bali for the next few weeks? Well, things are settling down.
That's
It's going to
George,
be
our
very
colleague.
hot here.
Yeah.
And it's going to be much sunnier. A few showers around, but certainly a good 10 or 15 degrees warmer than the UK. And
Hope you're having a good holiday, George. There is plenty of
Absolutely.
work waiting for you when you come back.
And there's one other question from Alex Short on Facebook. He's asked, is there any link between the US hurricane season and the August low pressure systems? Well, we often do see the remnants of hurricanes coming across the UK. They've taken a long journey by the time they get to us, so they've changed quite significantly. Currently, actually, this season, the hurricane season across the US has been quite quiet. So these areas of low pressure that we're seeing at the moment are not linked to that, and it's because we've got areas of low pressure. Anything I might have missed there, guys?
Interestingly, in the climate report, which was issued today, the one we just talked about, the worldwide count of Cat 5 tropical cyclones was one off the record set in 1997. So last year we had 11 Cat 5s, which is actually quite significant. And maybe there is a connection there between the humidity, the heat, etc. Obviously, our own Julian Hemming is looking at that, and we must get him on to talk about that connection at some point.
Yeah, and there's ongoing research because it's one of the things with global warming. Obviously, you get higher sea surface temperatures, which encourages hurricanes and tropical cyclones and so on. But another thing is that it could alter the wind shear, which tends to blow these systems apart. So it's quite complicated.
Complex, yeah. So what's happening there? Let's talk into the weekend. Wherever you are, there's lots of events going on. Let's have a look at the latest data.
Well, if you're on your holidays, the bad news is that jet stream is still going to be sailing to the south of the UK. It's still going to bring areas of low pressure our way. Now, after that brief ridge of high pressure, this is Thursday, you can see that brief bump in the isobars, this low comes along. Quite a straightforward low to forecast as it comes in on Friday because it's what we call a mature depression. That means it's done all of its deepening before it pushes in. So Friday's just wet and windy. It's rain moving through. Most places in the morning, early afternoon, winds picking up. That's the jet stream still on there. That's not the surface wind.
Thank goodness.
But what happens next is critical for the weekend. It's this innocuous looking feature, and the various computer models have been humming and ahhing about this, haven't they, over the last few days? We've been following it with interest. And some of the computer models, let's put the jet stream on. Now, what we look out for when we look at these lows forming is whether these features cross onto what we call the cold side of the jet. So if it moves onto the other side, at the moment it's on the warm side of the jet, the south side. If it moves onto the north side of the jet, then the jet can spin it up and deepen it into a proper wet and windy system. But midday Friday, this is it. It's an area of heavy rain, essentially. It's an area of humidity, an area of moisture, playing it forward through Friday. So Friday's wind and rain moves through. But what happens as we go into the weekend, some of the computer models a couple of days ago were suggesting that this would move on to the other side of the jet, deepen, and the energy and the heavy rain associated with it would merge with this area of low pressure and create something similar to last weekend, right?
Okay.
So the wind and the rain and all those weather warnings that we had last weekend. Other computer models were just sending this heavy rain into France. Now, what looks most likely as we head into the weekend, okay, so for the first part of Saturday, essentially, is something in the middle where it moves an area of heavy rain into France and southern parts of England and South Wales as what we call a wave. So it's sort of rippling on the south of Britain, whilst northern areas see blustery showers, essentially. And then everywhere sees blustery showers on Sunday. So that's the most likely outcome. But we know what it's like with these areas of heavy rain, right, moving up from the south. They are very tricky because it's very subtle changes in their location, and their interaction with the jet stream above them can make a big difference in terms of the weather we experience here in the UK, how far north that heavy rain moves on Saturday, or how far south it stays. So still some question marks, mainly about where the position of that heavy rain is across southern Britain. At the moment it looks likely to be southern England, South Wales that see some persistent rain, blustery showers elsewhere, but certainly one to watch. Either way, not a great weekend, is it? Not a great.
Whereas this looks a little bit better. There's some reds in this. What's this chart saying?
Well, the blues and the reds don't represent temperatures. That's worth pointing out first of all. The blues represent low pressure, the reds represent high pressure. And obviously we've got low pressure over the next few days. That's what's dominating things. What we're looking for are the reds. Now, along the top here, you've got the dates. This is the forecast date. And around the middle, you've got Saturday, Sunday. That's this weekend. Strong blues there, indicating that low pressure, certainly over the UK. And down on all these rows on the side here, they indicate the previous model runs. So the most recent model runs are at the top there, and then previous runs here. So you can see a trend in the forecast essentially. But what's important here is that's Monday and that's Tuesday, and we go from blues to reds. All right, so these are the most recent computer model runs. We go from blues to reds, low pressure to high pressure. And you can see, looking back at previous model runs, they become more red. And what that indicates is that the computer models are trending towards high pressure for the middle of next week, say. But, you know, it's summertime. This has happened before, hasn't it, where you've seen the models indicate high pressure a week or so in advance and need to backtrack when you get closer to the event. So it's not nailed down, but yeah, a sign of hope, all right?
And you're doing the 10-day trend tomorrow, so obviously more updated information. You'll probably get a better steer on it tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll put a bit more detail on that, see if that trend is still something to look out for. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be hot and sunny. That high pressure could move in over relatively cool air, could bring a lot of cloud in. So at the moment, we're just suggesting it's going to be less bad than it's been for the middle of next week. But yeah,
well, it'd be good to see you back on the 10-day trend anyway.
It'd be good to be back, yeah. And of course, you can follow all the updates by following us on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and so on. But I think we should probably leave it there. And
Weather Snap's back on Thursday as well. That's our weather weekly podcast where we talk about the news around the world and in the UK. We'll be discussing lots of things there. Thank you very much to Luke, who stepped in today and delivered some lovely questions and comments. And, you know, it's good to see your face. Obviously, you probably see Luke on the app. He's on YouTube, on our website. And we'll see you back here again at some point.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
thank you for watching.
So have a lovely week. See you later.
Bye.